Good evening, good day, good afternoon to you, whoever you are, wherever you're catching this replay. This is our first online event for the Labor Professionals Empowerment Hub. As you know, we've been very active on LinkedIn and trying to establish a social media presence, and hopefully we managed to catch you guys' attention. This is an event that we are using just to gauge what you guys want to talk about. And we'll be posting this on our LinkedIn page, and also it will be up on my personal YouTube channel. And feel free to leave comments, ideas for future sessions. So this is part of our mental health and wellness coaching arm. We have different arms or divisions as part of the hub, and we're trying to cater to all kinds of needs, and in doing so, being an all-encompassing resource hub for law students from your first year all the way to your first post-admission job. Okay, and if there's one division that you can say kind of kick the whole thing off, even when this hub was in its early stages, they all are excluded mental health. So I'm very aware that a mentally healthy lawyer um, starts young, and we need to start with the right habits. And often those habits don't have to cost us an arm or a leg, right? And of course, if we start early, then and we maintain those good habits, then once we get into the field, those will be the habits that will enable us to stay in the field for much longer. And of course, to be of the best service to not only our clients, but also to our loved ones and those that support us while we are carrying out our careers, right? So mental health is very, very important to me. Personally, I'm on my own journey of recovery, and I've seen the effects that it can have on students um, at university. And of course, if you carry that through all the way to your career, then of course you're setting yourself up for the opposite of thriving, which is what we don't want. Okay, so as part of our mental health and wellness coaching team, our professionals, I'm very pleased to welcome Lalie Moraba. You've probably seen her on LinkedIn as well. She is a sleep and wellness coach, mainly helping professional women. Okay, but of course, these habits can extend to diet as well. We're talking to everyone here this evening. She helps professional women dive in their respective fields just through better sleep and nutrition. So today she's going to tailor material towards law students. And that we put out a questionnaire for those that signed up to be part of the event tonight. Hoping to get some ideas to where you guys are with sleep and nutrition, but we've not had any people pitching out tonight. So nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and, as I said, we will put it up on YouTube, put it up on LinkedIn. You're welcome to leave your comments, leave your thoughts, the stuff that you're struggling with, so that we know for future events and also future programs within this arm of our hub that we'll be able to hopefully service you and provide resources in that regard. So without too much of blabbering from me, I'm going to hand you over to Lalie, and she's going to take the floor.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. It is a privilege, an honor, an opportunity for me to be able to be here this evening to get to share this really important message that I wish somebody who many, many years ago had shared with me. And it's so interesting because I was speaking with another adult, professional adult recently, and they were saying to me how what I have to say, they wish it had been part of like life skills. And Of course, when we were younger, who knows, maybe we may not have listened, but at least somebody would have said it and would have had the opportunity to make the choice to listen, as opposed to way back when we actually didn't know and we were just going on what everybody else around us was doing, which was just working our bodies to the ground and not sleeping when we needed to, not eating the right foods. So at least the students that will get to hear this message, they cannot say they didn't know any better. So, yes. May I just ask you to give me, I need to share. So I need co-hosting
Okay.
rights from you because or can I just, okay, no, that's fine.
Can
I
you
can
share
just
them?
share here. I see that I can.
Okay.
And this is the portion of the screen. Share. Okay. Are you able to see?
Not yet?
Not yet. Is it just black?
Okay, got them.
You can see. Okay. Let me just move this out of the way. All right. Okay. So I am speaking on mainly sleep and the student life, and I will touch a little bit also on nutrition and the student life. So you can see this next slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, that's fine. Then I'm going to proceed just fine. So, as you are listening to me speak, ask yourself and be honest, how great is your sleep? How are things going right now? Is it A, great, I'm doing well, I'm thriving, B, I'm just getting by, C, my sleep is terrible, send help? And if I am to go on the basis of the questions, the little survey that we sent out even before tonight, I think just about everybody except for one person would have gone with C and maybe some B's there. So already then we are aware that sleep is a problem for many of the people that are going to be listening to this, you guys who are students. So, a little bit about myself. I am a former law student and also legal practitioner. I studied law many, many years ago and worked as an attorney and as an in-house counsel, as a lecturer. So I've done quite a bit in the legal space. And now I work as a health coach and a sleep strategist for professional lawyers and other people in professional spaces. As Lisa said, I work mainly with women, but really with everybody, even with organizations. But all along, I have been somebody who suffered from sleeplessness, from poor sleep. And it's something which bothered me, but not enough because everybody else around me was tired. But at some point, especially as I became a mom in my late 20s and 30s, it began to become a bigger issue. And I decided that I needed to do something about it. But it would be many years until I could find something, and I'll touch on that also a little bit later, that really worked for me. I tried different things and they worked somewhat, but not as ideally as my sleep is now. And by that, I don't mean that my sleep is perfect, but it is consistent. It is not something that I dread going to bed like I used to way back then. And I have some decent sleep routine and habits that I have implemented in my life. So, why then are we talking about sleep tonight? We all know sleep as something that we all need to do. And we think of it mostly as, well, I just need to lie horizontally 7, 8 hours or so and just get some rest. But it's really more than just about resting. Sleep is a foundation for our health. And without a foundation, just like any structure, a building, then things aren't so solid. And eventually things will lean over or collapse completely. And sleep is just one of those biological foundations that we all need. And it is something that, yeah, we need it for our survival, for our health, our metabolism, our hormones, our memory, something which is very important for students, and also just our mental health in general, anxiety and such. And sleep is very often the most productive thing that we can do. because of the fact that it is so many hours of our day, or I should say of our night, that we spend doing nothing, what might be considered nothing. That is one of the main reasons, especially in modern society, that we treat sleep so badly. Because why on earth would nature require of us to lie for 8 hours? Just lie there and do nothing. But the thing is, the reality is, because we can never outrun our biology, our natural needs, then sleep at that part of the night is indeed the most productive thing that we can do. We're not doing it in place of more important things. And then, even more so for students, if you're not sleeping, you're compromising your focus, your memory consolidation, because during that time of you sleeping, there's all kinds of activity that is happening in your brain that is conducive to you being able to consolidate, in other words, to lock in or to reinforce the learning that you would have been doing during the day. So, this is why then you need sleep. And then it's also important to help you make some good decisions. And you have less brain fog and your brain feels sharper. And good decision making is an essential skill on campus grounds because it is what's the word I'm looking for? There's a fine line, well, not a fine line, but it's choices you have to make between a friend coming over to you on a Tuesday night when you are studying for a test on Thursday, and somebody comes to you on a Tuesday and says to you, let's go out. And you have to make that choice of justifying in your mind, well, I still have Wednesday to study, but actually Wednesday you have another assignment. And if you're not sleeping well, it means that you're compromising the decision-making part, like the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And so you need to sleep. And you also needed to have creative thinking. Big ideas happen when your brain is rested and you wake up from that and you think, how did I come up with that? It is because you were sleeping. And so poor sleep is like your, sorry, poor sleep is like your brain working on just like one battery bar, and you don't want that. And that leads to mental and physical chaos. We already just mentioned mental health, and it's a big thing. It's a huge thing for students. It's a huge thing, as Lisa has said. And this means that without proper sleep, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be irritable. We already spoke about the decision making. You're going to have poor memory. And then with regards to stress, if you're not sleeping well, you are increasing the stress hormone in our bodies, which is called cortisol. Because cortisol is there, it's not a bad hormone, it's there to help you manage stress. And sleeplessness is equated in our bodies to stress. So now cortisol goes too high, and this throws your entire hormone regulation out of regulation, and then it just goes out of whack. And then you find yourself even experiencing things like gaining weight and I remember it being a big thing on university grounds where first and second years in particular, we're finding ourselves gaining a lot of weight because of increased stress in our lives. You're also experiencing a weakened immunity because you're just stressed again. And then a high risk of burnout. And this is very much related, as we said, to mental health. And even on that topic of mental health, they really are inseparable. And you find that if you are insomniac or just have poor sleep because of your own habits, that you also suffer from anxiety. And this means that your resilience, your emotional resilience, is going to go down. In other words, what resilience is your strength, your ability to deal with life and what it requires of us. And so you're going to find yourself feeling more overwhelmed more quickly by circumstances. And all of this tied to your sleep being suboptimal. And then you're going to experience depressive episodes also, perhaps, and you're going to find yourself unmotivated. Suddenly you're in the middle of second year of engineering, something that you've always spoken about. Everybody knows since you were 6 years old, that you wanted to be an engineer. But now you think, I'm just not motivated anymore. Could that be because you've been compromising your sleep, particularly maybe towards the end of high school and then into university? And then a serious one that we deal with, especially here in South Africa, is we get a lot of university dropouts. And I wonder if, based on the anecdotal conversations that I've had with younger people in my life, my nieces, nephews, friends, children of my friends and such, who end up dropping out of university, I wonder if they're dropping out because of the mental health issues they're suffering and because they have such poor sleep. Because whenever I have these conversations with these young people, it does turn out that none of them was sleeping well. And then halfway through second year, you're deciding that I'm done with this. I no longer want to study. So those are some of the consequences that we get, especially in relation to poor sleep and mental health. And so, of course, the opposite of that would apply, that if you're sleeping well, then you're protecting your mind and you're gaining emotional regulation, you're lowering your cortisol. And sleep also helps you with your feel-good chemicals. We talk about chemical imbalances. Sleep gives you chemical balance, and it helps you to be able to respond, not just be reacting to pressure, not just be thinking, oh, I failed that test, I'm quitting this whole university thing. Unfortunately, it would almost seem as though the student life is just per necessity sleep enemy number one. And this is because there's all of these things that I have listed here. We're dealing with crazy deadlines from one lecturer wants something today, another one wants something at supper time, then at lunchtime. You're just submitting things all the time, right? And so it is this cramped lifestyle where you're just struggling to manage. And you're encountering it really for the first time at university, because even in high school, life wasn't like that. And you had a lot more support systems around you. And then also, there's issues that you subject yourself to, like social FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's your first time away from home for many of you. You are going wild. You are the life of the party. You think that your parents were too strict before, and now you're the one who's at every party. You don't want to miss out. And this is causing you to also compromise your sleep, compromise your studies, and it becomes that unhelpful, unfortunate domino effect. And then and these days also, I mean, when I was in university, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have Netflix, none of that. So we weren't late night scrolling. But this is what people are doing now. You are addicted to scrolling. And based on also on the results that we got from our survey, a number of you are sleeping at 1 a.m. And such. And I don't think that you are really doing any hardcore studying at 1 a.m. It's just not possible for your brain to be doing that. You're probably reading the same page over and over again, in between checking the socials and people's WhatsApp statuses. And I don't say this to make you feel guilty, it's just the reality of it. And then there's also money issues. When you're a student, you're also living very much, for many students, a broke life. And that means that maybe you're stressing about money issues, about your fees, about maybe you're having to hold down a student job on campus or off campus, you're doing waitressing or whatever it might be. And so it means that you're studying, you have a social life, and then you also have this job. And those things can compete very much for your sleep. And that's the one thing that we then choose to sacrifice. And it just leads to completely irregular routines, as I said, where sleep is the one portion of our day that is so long, and yet we're not doing anything, so we choose to compromise that. We also subscribe to some lies about sleep, myths that we tell ourselves. And I've heard people say things like, I'll catch up on my sleep later, maybe on the weekend or something. The truth is, scientifically, it's been established over and over again. It is very hard to pay back your sleep debt. So if you find that Monday to Thursday, you are getting 5 hours of sleep or so, and you think you're going to make up for it, even the mathematics just doesn't add up. Because that means that if you're getting 5 hours of sleep Monday to Thursday, that's now 20 hours. Whereas that would have been 4 days, that would have been at least about maybe 32 hours of sleep or so. You're simply not going to be able to pay back that debt over Saturday and Sunday. It's just not going to happen. Then there's people who tell themselves that they function well on about 4 hours of sleep. The truth is you don't. That's just the harsh reality of it. Very, very, very few people, 0.0001 people can function on 4 hours of sleep. We just teach our bodies coping mechanisms. We figure out ways to cope, we take up stimulants, and our bodies just learn to function in that low grade energy hum. And we just, get used to that. Then some people will say, I'm just a night owl. Again, this is also highly exceptional. The truth and the reality is modern living makes a lot of people think that they can work somewhere between 9 and midnight a lot better. The truth is you're overstimulated and you're dysregulated and you're exposing yourself to a lot of artificial light. I'll come to that also just now and talk about that. And this is what is making you think that during the day you want to be sleeping and at night is when you catch your second wind and you want to work. It's just, again, a coping mechanism. It is not your biology. You are actually working against your biology if you do that. And then you also hear people saying that they work best under pressure. So we'll leave assignments up until the very last minute because, oh, my best work comes under pressure. I spoke about the stress hormone earlier. It may seem like your best work is coming under pressure, but that's because your cortisol is shooting up and it's fueling what may seem like productivity. But what does that do? It's these spikes and crashes, spikes and crashes. And what then ends up happening is you burn out and it comes in ways that you would otherwise not expect. So you might be listening to me and you're thinking, okay, this sounds good. I hear you. But as I even said earlier, the student life seems to be an enemy of sleep because you just thinking to yourself, I just don't have time to prioritize sleep. I would want you to reframe it in this way. Think of it as sleep is actually saving you time. Because when you have a clear mind, you're able to study faster, you're able to focus when you're in your lectures, and you crash a lot less. And this is exactly what I would want you to think of. Like the whole scenario is like that. As I just said now, when you're tired, you find yourself reading one paragraph over and over again. And that means that you're wasting time. Things are slower. Your brain, I don't know if you've experienced this. Maybe I experience it a lot more because I'm older, but there are many times when I might be up and I start feeling like my brain is walking through jelly or something, like that feeling of I'm very slow in my thinking. So if you become more aware and in tune with your body, you realize that that's probably the case. And then you might be thinking also, I've tried fixing my sleep before and it didn't work. And maybe you have, yes, if you are suffering from poor sleep and you want to do something about it. But I think that some of the things that you've tried don't pay attention to your circadian biology. And again, let me just flag that as something I'll touch on just now. And then I've also just mentioned this, people who say, well, I'll sleep properly one day after exams. So, like right now, over the holidays, or one day when I graduate. The truth is, your body doesn't work on that schedule because the burnout is going to happen. And it's going to happen unceremoniously at a time when you are least expecting it to. And also, let's be honest with ourselves. The lie of I'll sleep later is a lie because later never comes. I can tell you from my experience, from where I am right now, that school is actually, well, school or university is actually a really safe time for your life. Because when you leave there, you're actually going to start living real life. You're going to get responsibilities. And in my field of law, you become a candidate attorney, and that is just hours of slave labor, right? And you find yourself that you just actually have less time for sleep. You're going to grow up, become a fully grown adult, maybe get married, maybe have children, and all of these responsibilities are going to compete for your time. So, actually, now is a good time for you to be maximizing on building some sleep habits. We'll talk about that also a bit. Then I've been mentioning biology. This here is what actually helped me really fix my sleep. So if you Google on the internet, you'll get a lot of different things that will tell you do this, do that, and they're very helpful. You'll get people who suggest supplements to you. And the thing for me that I had to realize was that my body wasn't built, and all our bodies are not built for this 24-hour hustle that we are doing. Our bodies work on a rhythm, right? And especially for women, we have a rhythm that is tied to the sun and the moon. We all work on a rhythm tied to the sun. The women, it's the moon also. But the most important light that I want to speak about is the sun. And this is the sun gives us our circadian rhythm. I think there's a very familiar term for many people. They just don't understand quite what that means. And this is the biological clock that we all have. And it's about a 24-hour clock. And everything, your organs, your cells, your sleep, your gut health, your mental health, every single thing in your body runs on this clock. So now, just think of a clock regularly. A normal clock on the wall, if it is broken, if it is right now 7:30 and that clock on my wall in my house is saying 6:30, it means that I'll be thinking it's 6:30 and I'm not on this call, which I should have been on at 7. Now, there's exactly what happens in your body. It's exactly that. You exposing yourself to a poor circadian rhythm, like I said, with the artificial light that we're exposed to so much at night in our homes, and that light is telling us that it's daytime, and you being up at 1 a.m., you are actually communicating the wrong information concerning time to your body. And it might be it might work. It might work because you're young, you're 21 or whatever it is, and it might work for some time, but it's really, again, your body just having a coping mechanism. And you'll find that before you're even 30, things are falling apart in your body. So fixing my circadian rhythms was really critical to me being able to fix my sleep. And I'll talk about that then just now. I'm just going to touch on some of these things that we already know about trying to fix our sleep. We're going to be eating proper meals during the day. I'm just going to pass that. We'll come to that. And we're going to be keeping consistent bedtimes and waking up times. And by that, I mean you're going to try at least 5 nights out of 7 to be going to bed at the same time, around the same time. So if, let's say that will be around 9:30, 10, maybe 10:30 at the latest, I think that you should be going to bed. And this now becomes a regular pattern. And so your body actually will start craving that at that time. You're going to say to yourself and build a backbone and say to yourself, I'm not going to be scrolling or on my phone watching Netflix. I'm going to instead build a wind down routine into my nightly routine where I turn off my phone or I just play soft music on my phone, maybe turn off the overhead light in my bedroom and just keep the bedside light on. And that's just part of my wind down routine. This doesn't want to click. Okay. Then with regard to the specifics of the circadian rhythm, this is how you reset it. It's a lot of things involved in this, but I really just want to highlight a few that are immediately accessible to you that you can just start doing. And so it's going to be importantly getting morning light. And by that, I mean at sunrise time. So right now being winter in SA, at sunrise, which is going to be around 7, I'm in Joburg. I know it's quite different in Cape Town and in Natal. Sunrise times might be different by like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but I'm going to take mine. Right now, it is around 6:53. Actually, I checked this morning, it was saying 6:53. That's sunrise time. And at that time, I'm outside on my porch and I am allowing the light of the sun, that sunrise light, for it to enter into my eyes. And when that happens, when my eyes encounter that light, that morning light, it sends a message to my brain, to all of my body that, oh, it is morning. So that light then is helping my body, it is instructing my body on how to tell time. So if you do that and just do that alone, that will be incredibly helpful to you, right? So whether you go outside or you sit next to an open window, either one of those would help you as long as you're getting this light unfiltered. If you wear glasses and you can't see without your glasses, sit somewhere first, take off your glasses, and then just allow that light to come into your eyes because the glass of the glass we wear these days blocks that light signal, and you want to be able to get that. And you're just doing this for about 10 minutes of your morning, and that will be helpful for you. And then also meal timing. Eating our meals at consistent times also helps to anchor our rhythms because, as I said earlier, your circadian rhythm also determines your gut health. And if you have a broken rhythm, you're going to have broken gut health. And so eating at like breakfast, lunch, supper, instead of just grazing and snacking all throughout the day, is going to help you in being able to fix your sleep also. So your nutrition is closely connected to your sleep. And then another important one. So we spoke about the top part of the day, the morning. And then at the end of your day, another very important one is to cut your screen exposure and the lights that you're exposed to in your homes. And this is now, as I just said, dimming the lights so that you are not communicating to your brain, to your eyes, that it is actually 12 noon when it is 10 p.m. It doesn't mean that I'm saying that you cannot do any work at night, but use like side lamps and just try and get into a rhythm of communicating to your body at a certain time, maybe after supper. You tell yourself that I'm going to now be starting my wind down time. And these are small, boring actions, but they have huge power, huge brain altering power and results. And you start doing this. I have come across stories of people well, let me say students actually, students who were talking about how when their parents started to enforce this in their lives, where they said to them, keep to a certain nightly routine, that things started changing even in their own studying. And that's something that I've just started to implement with my daughter also, who is just a high schooler at the moment. And so we'll be able to see by the end of the year where she gets to with her results in that way. And I really want to emphasize here that there is no amount of scientific advancement that can outdo our original biological design. Our modern lives are hectic. And so, what we're trying to do is to implement these things that I'm recommending to help us to mitigate the hecticness, the disrupted rhythms of our modern lives in order to help our biology. So, no matter how advanced we become as like in technology and in science and all of these things, we're always going to be human. Nothing is ever going to make us unhuman or whatever other word you can think of. And so we need to protect that humanness, that biology by doing these things. It doesn't mean that I'm saying that we must now all move away from the city lights, the villages, and that kind of life. No, we need to be able to do things that are doable for us in our modern living, which is why I have these things here that I've listed. So, and then also things where you can just decide, I'm just going to do one thing, one thing. I'm going to do for the next month the morning light or going to bed maybe 30 minutes earlier than what I was used to. If right now I'm going to bed at 1 a.m., how about you try 12:30? Instead of, oh, tomorrow I'm going to go at 9 p.m. That's not going to happen because that's not your habit. So you just start little by little, and within a month, maybe you will be going to bed at 10 p.m. instead. Oh, yeah. So that's really what I want to encourage you to do. And also then what I say to people, especially in the professional space, but that applies to you also as students. People then ask me the question, but what if I need to do some late night work? What I say is go to bed early still. Because like I mentioned earlier, your brain is going to get tired regardless of what you do. Unless, of course, you are now hooked to a coffee machine in the middle of the night, but your brain is going to get tired. So it's best that you go to bed anyway. Go to bed early and then wake up early. So for argument's sake, we could say you'll go to bed at 10, then wake up at 3, or even 2 if you have to be able to study or finish off work which you left undone, as opposed to trying to cross night and then only going to bed later in the day. Because there's certain things that need to happen at certain times of the night in our brain that you're missing out on in that earlier part of the sleep. That earlier part of the sleep has been established in science to be golden. And you really want to get some of that. Of course, if there's deadlines, you're not going to get all of it, but at least some of it is going to really be helpful to you. So even strategies like that, try something like that. And because here are some benefits. Sorry, I want to get a drink of water. Here are some benefits that are, I think, pretty obvious. That once you start sleeping better, you're going to find that you're experiencing sharper thinking in your exams and you have greater emotional stability. You're able to work under pressure and think under pressure. Your body starts to feel strong and not sluggish, like you're dragging yourself around the whole day. And also, you have a more resilient nervous system that can handle real life. And so sleep really is how you as a student stay smart and sane long enough for you to actually implement what you were in school for. And as I just lend this a bit on the sleep side of things, I want to say to us that we know, and we know these truths, that all actions have consequences. We can choose our actions for sure. We can choose what we want to do today, but we don't have the luxury of deciding on the consequences for later on in our lives. And so the habits that we build today are going to decide the brain and the body that we're going to have later on. So here's what poor sleep is going to look like then. So if you're sleeping poorly in your early 20s and you think you're getting away with it, you're only withdrawing on your account from your 30s. And so in your 30s, you're going to experience burnout. In that very first job that you've been so excited about and you're finally out of the candidate attorney stage, junior associate, and you think now you're finally going to make some real money, and then your body crashes. The chronic sleep of your 20s, poor sleep of your 20s is also going to result in hormonal chaos in your 30s also, where you're going to find yourself struggling, especially, and hormones are particularly important at that stage, especially for women, as I said earlier. You now suddenly find that, oh, your menstrual cycle is going a bit funny. And if indeed you decide that you want to have children, you start experiencing infertility and such. And that can really put a damper on your life and things. And then you keep going, and then into your 40s, you are now dealing with weakened immunity. And you're now finding that you're absent at work for more days than your employer wants to tolerate. And then by the time that you're 50, you're dealing with diabetes. And how is that connected? Very much so. As I said, sleep is just the foundation of everything. And if you're not sleeping well, that actually has a huge impact on your blood sugar and your insulin. Studies have shown this, and I don't want to go into detail there, but that's just how it is. And then in your 60s, you're now dealing with cognitive fatigue. You're experiencing dementia. And I'm not even talking here just in theory. These are things that I'm encountering in my own family and even in my professional work. I'm talking to people that are experiencing these things. And if you look at this, it's things that are happening earlier and earlier in life. 50 years ago, you probably wouldn't find anybody who was 60 and suffering from dementia. But that's what's happening right now. And these are things that are then related to the choices that we would have made when we were 18, when we were 23. So, as I said, you choose your choice, your actions, but you don't choose the consequences. And so what's going to happen in life is you're either going to pay now or pay later. So I really would say to you, pay now in the sense of sacrifice other things in favor of your sleep. Don't be unwise and be sacrificing your health to get that degree. And by no means am I saying we shouldn't get degrees. I got my degrees and they served me for the time that they did in my life. They are important for us to get. But don't throw away everything, your health, your sleep, in the pursuit of that degree. Because it won't matter if you're now in a hospital sick with some illness and your family is now having to battle with that, or even worse, you are in a mental institution. So that's things that we kind of really need to be careful of. All right, so that closes that section on sleep. And I'm just going to touch a little bit. I have a few slides to go through on nutrition. And as I say, they're very much related because the body is one whole unit. And that's what I would want us to understand, that our bodies are one whole unit. It's not like nutrition happens here, sleep there, studying over there. No, it's all happening in this one body. And so what you feed your body is going to determine your brain power. So your brain is powered by nutrients, your food, not just by willpower or just by how smart you are. So if you're exposing yourself to a lot of ultra-processed foods, then you're going to experience energy crashes, mood swings, and brain fog. But if you're eating real food, and we'll talk about what that is just now, then you're going to experience the opposite of that: emotional stability, focus, sustained energy. And also, if you didn't know, now today you definitely will know that your mental health starts in your gut. So they have said, in fact, that the gut is the second brain. So you might find that you think that things are happening in your head and you're feeling like you are just mentally unwell. It could be because of the food that you're eating. It may very well be. So you want to look into that because your food literally is building your brain chemistry, and your mental state is shaped by what you put or what you don't put on that plate of yours. Something that students are notorious for not paying attention to, which leads us to this again. So the student life is the enemy of sleep. The student life is the enemy of nutrition. And so I'm encountering young people who are skipping meals, who are Uber Eats is like on speed dial on their phones. And it's become very cool for people to skip breakfast and just drink coffee. And they feel like they're superpowered in doing so. And yes, it works again when you're 18 or so, because your hormones are still okay at that point. But actually, it's going to affect you and it's going to lead to quicker burnout because having coffee instead of actual food for breakfast causes your cortisol, again, remember the stress hormone we spoke about, to shoot up because food helps your body not to stress. It gives your body a calming effect. But when you put coffee, especially just plain black coffee, that so many people just drink and think it's so cool, when you just put coffee in there, you're shooting up your cortisol and your adrenals. Well, your adrenaline, because your adrenals give off both cortisol and adrenaline. And these are stress hormones. They're not bad hormones. They're just trying to help your body to cope. And then you also find that students are just grazing and snacking on unhealthy sugary stuff like sweets or whatever it might be while they're studying because, oh, I don't have time to make a meal. So let me just grab a bag of, I don't know, jelly babies. And jelly babies actually aren't terrible. I can't think of anything bad right now. But and you're snacking on that without having eaten properly. Students are also notorious for eating late meals. You're only having supper at 10 p.m., and that's why you only get into bed at 1 p.m. And again, I'm not saying any of this to make you feel guilty, but just to be aware and also for you to be able to try and make different choices for your life. So here, I want to highlight that our brain needs nutrient-dense meals in order for it to function, as I've already said. And so nutrient density is made up of the three macros mostly, and this is what makes up our meals: protein, fat, and carbs. Protein is central because it helps us with many, many things, but I've just highlighted a few here to steady your blood sugar so that you can have a steady mood and steady mental health. And it's also the building blocks for your brain. Protein eventually breaks down to amino acids, and this gives us what we need for brain function. And then fats are there for your hormone support and other things, of course. Then carbs, and the good kind of carbs, we're not talking here people who are just living on donuts, but we're talking good carbs like potatoes, let's say, for example, or an apple. This is going to help your brain to have fuel. And as I said just now, food helps you to tolerate stress. And in particular, carbs are good for that. When you eat carbs, it has this calming effect. And that's what you want to be able to do. But again, I want to emphasize the good carbs, the good fats also, and good protein. All of these needs to be the good quality, not ultra processed junk, not protein bars that you buy at Discount that are labeled high in protein. But when you look at the nutrition list, you realize that actually this thing has a lot of bad fats in it and very little protein, actually. And then hydration. And here it's talking about just making sure that you're drinking enough water. I know it's very popular for people on college campuses to be going around with these huge 3 liter bottles, drinking water in there the whole day and thinking that they're doing something good for their bodies. You can actually suffer from overhydration, especially if you're drinking that much water in the winter. You don't need that. Hydration is very much dependent on the seasons and on your level of activity. But having said that, I'm not saying don't drink. Drink your water, drink some good quality juices. Hydration does not include alcohol. It does not include coffee. Those two things in particular are known for dehydrating your body. You want to be drinking clean water and then even add a little bit of electrolytes, add a little bit of salt and lemon to it. It might take a little bit of getting used to, okay? But over some time, you begin to get used to that taste and it tastes good. And because hydrating isn't just plain water, you want to feed your cells. Actually, hydration is very much important for our cell function, and our cells function on electrolytes. And good quality salt contains some of these electrolytes. So you want to be able to do that as well. So even as I said with the sleep, we want you to have small, doable shifts. Because really, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Look at this long list of things and then think, I can't do any of these, so I'm going to do none of them. No, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Do the best that you can. Just don't do nothing at all. So you are just always one meal away from feeling better. And this could just be breakfast. You can decide that for the next month, I'm going to focus on getting my breakfast right. And so it's very important to eat that breakfast. And if you're not hungry, because many people tell me, I'm just not hungry in the morning, that's because your body has learned to do that as a coping mechanism. But if you begin to teach it by maybe having one boiled egg, and then the following week have 2 boiled eggs, you'll start to get back your hunger signals and realize that actually you are hungry in the mornings and you function better if you do eat. So something as simple as fried eggs, boiled eggs, and some oats. That's your breakfast. And try and add protein to your meals. Again, eggs will be good at that. Drink water before you have that second coffee in the day. You might have already had your first one very early in the morning. Before you have another one, try and have some water and see how you feel. And don't allow yourself to get so hungry that it becomes a crisis where you become ravenous. You become what we now call hangry, which is hungry and angry. And you're just going to eat anything that you come across at the canteen because now you've gone for too long without eating. You need to get into a rhythm so that your body becomes accustomed to fuel coming in at rhythmic times, at consistent times throughout your day. So I also have here some meal planning tips for you. I'm not sure the circumstances of any of you guys, whether you're staying at home or in a university residence or those private residents that have kitchens, whatever your circumstances are, see what you can take from here to apply. But I have some recommendations, things like planning your meals to ensure that you are eating. If you live in the kind of busy life that you are, you actually need to plan your meals. And this is something that I do for my family because I'm very busy. So over the weekend, I plan, and then I might start the preparation of some of these meals. So planning and prep are not the same thing, but they work together. By planning, I mean I decide what meals we're going to have for the week, breakfast, lunch, and supper. And then which ones am I going to plan, like prep the whole thing, or just cut some onions, peel some potatoes, that kind of thing, so that when I want to make that meal, I'm not starting from scratch and it's taking me a whole hour and a half. And then I just feel like this is too much. I'm getting 2-minute noodles. And that's all I'm going to do. So plan over the weekend and plan, as I say here, 3 basic meals. You can just decide that I'm going to plan my breakfast for the next week, or my lunches, or my suppers. And then you start getting into the habit there. And I also urge people love to say how I don't want to eat the same thing, it's boring. That's really not the case because actually currently right now in your life, you'll find that you're rotating around the same 5 or 6 meals. It's only because somebody else is making you conscious of meals that you think, oh, I don't want to cut out my variety. So I urge you right now in your life is not the time to entertain yourself with food. You are trying to eat for nutrition, not for entertainment. So don't aim for the variety, aim for meals that are mindless and boring. And by that, I don't mean they're tasteless. No. There's all kinds of seasonings you can add to your food. And I mean, eggs are very nice. You can do all kinds of things with eggs and potatoes. Just those 2 things. You can add all kinds of seasonings to those. So, but they're simple also. They don't require hours and hours in the kitchen. And then also something else that I recommend is for you to cook once and eat twice. That's called batch cooking. Very easy things to do that with is like oats. You can cook a big pot of oats and then portion it off and put some in the fridge or freezer, depending on when you're going to have it. You can cook a big pot of soup and even mince. You can cook plain mince, let's say a big pot of plain mince on Sunday, and then decide how you're going to flavor it on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then it doesn't seem like it's the same meal, but it really is because you started off with one blank canvas and that was your mince. And the thing is, you just cook in this one big pot and that's going to help you. Then also have it within easy reach things like nuts, fruit, plain yogurt, boiled eggs. You can boil maybe 5, 10 eggs at the beginning of the week. Don't peel them, just boil them and then leave them in the fridge and then take them from there. And then you can heat them up when you want to have them. Just add some hot water to them just to heat them up and then you peel them and then you're good to go. And there's a meal there. And none of these things involve going anywhere near fast food places, as you can see. And then other things, as I said earlier, I know that budgets, money can be quite an issue for students. And so meal planning is actually a really good way for you to learn how to control your spending, because I think students are notorious for spending a lot of money on food, and even though they're broke in other ways. So I have here some simple things that are budget friendly that you can start bringing into your rotation. So you can buy a tray of eggs, tinned pill charts, baked beans, oats, frozen mixed veggies, amasi like the sour milk and organ meat. You will see what's missing on my list, and that is things like 2-minute noodles. I don't think that can ever be considered nutrition. Am I saying you can never have them? No, but have them as a rare treat. But if you choose things like organ meats, for example, chicken livers, chicken hearts, those are far more affordable. And rand for rand, these things that I've listed here are actually cheaper for you because they have nutrient density, something that is lacking in canteen donuts, in 2-minute noodles and such. If you're buying frozen mixed veg and chicken hearts and a tray of eggs, you can make things there. You can make meals for a week that are going to be satisfying. I mean, like add potatoes, add rice. There's a long list of things that I just haven't included. I don't want to overwhelm you, but these are the things that are there currently. And you just add those things and you're nourishing your body without breaking the bank and without spending hours in the kitchen. And I think that is just a major win. I cannot think of anything better than that. Okay. And then I also have here just some ideas for you of meals that you can make. I'm not going to go through those. You can just take a screenshot of that slide and see what you like there and how you can change things around. This thing is, why is it not clicking? Okay, then finally, Again, we're talking the long game as we did with your sleep. I want you to eat like your body matters now, to feed yourself like you want to succeed in your life, not just at the end of your varsity, not just to get a degree, but for the future you are actually planning for. I've already said the life you're living now is meant to set you well for the future. And that's really what all of this is about. There is no way that you're going to thrive long term in your life on coffee and 2 minute noodles or just burnt toast. You need to feed your future, not just the current deadlines that you are facing, so that you can have energy beyond this university life. And if you're doing that, you're setting yourself up for success. That is it from me. Thank you so much for your time, for your ears. I trust that you have learned something valuable this evening, things that you can implement and decide what you're going to do with your life. And if you have questions, I am available on LinkedIn and you can get my information there and even my email. I am happy to help you, just to walk the journey with you because I want you to succeed. I really, really do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalie. I think I was getting a bit schooled there with the 2 minute noodles. All I could hear at the end were 2 minute noodles. And I'm not even a student, and it's my Achilles heel.
Yeah.
But I must say,
Mhm.
I've done some of the stuff, um, such as the overhead lighting and the sort of wind down routine and
Yes.
the meals. Because I was also, I don't know if it started in my student days, but I was a big breakfast skipper. And you're right about that, not getting that signal. And so you think, oh, I can survive until lunchtime. That'll be my first meal.
Yeah.
And so my goal, even for, was it last year or for this year, was to just, no matter what I was eating, just to make sure I was getting my three times a day.
The meals,
So
yeah.
yeah, and
Mm.
I managed to do that, which I was quite proud of. So
Yeah.
I'm making, and I mean I've suffered major sleep deficit,
Yeah.
to the point where they thought I was having epileptic fits
Sure.
or
Wow.
sort of like spacing out in the middle of a conversation and things like that. So myself, I mean, I've also walked that road of bad coping mechanisms and
Yeah.
suffering for it. And now I think I started probably last year, um, at 40, getting it right. So the earlier you start, you can only
Exactly.
benefits you.
Yeah.
It's never too late, but the earlier you start, especially in a profession like ours,
Like I was,
where you can maladapt very, very easily. And so
yeah.
you can fall
Yeah.
into coffee and
Bad
coke.
habits.
I
Yeah.
mean, coffee and
Mm.
cigarettes or cigarettes and coke. And we had this picture of success that come with a whole lot of bad habits. So even as a
Mm.
candidate attorney or as a law student, you're looking at your professors or you're looking at your principal attorney and you think, wow, they're so successful. And so you eat up the entire picture, which also inadvertently sometimes includes a bunch of bad habits. So we've got to set it up for yourself, to say, look, if that's what the price of success, I don't want it, or I'm going to just change the script. I'm going to flip the narrative
Exactly.
around it and say,
Exactly.
I can last longer in my profession, like I said in my intro, be of a lot more value to my loved ones, firstly, to my clients, and everyone else who I affect, um, by just looking after myself. Because, like you said, you know what, the degree is important, but at the end of the day, the faculty is not going to come and see you in hospital when you have dementia at 60. And they're not going to say, oh, wow, we're
Yeah.
so sorry. We put you under so much of pressure in your early 20s. We're so sorry. Can we pay your bill? Can we pay your hospital or your
And yeah,
therapy?
too
You're
late.
too late, and
Exactly. Mm.
they're not going to do that.
Right.
So it's really up to
Yeah.
us. Like you said, and I love what you did about the the doable, the doable thing. You've got to start somewhere.
Yes.
You've got to start
Yes.
somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, food is expensive. It's crazy. Um, and so you've got to just say, okay, little changes. Maybe one change in my drinking habits, one change in my dietary
Yes.
habits, one
Mm,
change in my sleep
mm,
routine. Let me do something
exactly.
in one small thing in each of the three areas. And you build on that. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, no one's going to take care of you but you. You know, and when it
Absolutely.
comes to this,
Yeah.
we only have one.
Yeah.
And you can have therapists, you can have tools, you can have people like yourself. At the end of the day, the responsibility still lies with us, you know.
And
So
that's exactly it for me. I think people listen to a presentation like this, and it's a lot of things that I'm saying because, of course, I'm not going to come and present one point, right?
yeah,
But I want them to take away from it. I'm going to take one from the sleep, one from the nutrition. I'm going to forget about everything else
yeah,
and just go and try those, as
yeah,
opposed to, oh, there's just so much that I'm not doing, and now I feel guilty about it, and now I do nothing at all.
yeah.
So we
And,
don't
and I
want
think
that.
and I
Yeah.
think deep down people know that what they're doing to their bodies. We know it. We know
Mm.
it. But it's just a
Yeah.
matter of taking that step, taking that first, maybe half, even half a baby step is better than nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so, I mean, hopefully this is one of many, many um, resources that we're going to create. And
Yeah.
hopefully when we develop our actual programs within the hub, that
Yeah.
people will start to say, hey, I like the way Lalie breaks it down. But I need specific help because I'm from this demographic and it's not so easy to access nutrition and
Yeah, yes.
what's my
And then I
game
can
plan?
help them and say,
And you can help
exactly,
them
let's go to
because
ShopRite or whatever and see what you can buy there that is within your
exactly,
affordability, because that's exactly the thing. People then think it's only the cheap junk, but actually there are things they can do.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully we're gonna really stretch this and we're gonna make it a no excuse zone in the
Thing,
hub where
yeah.
it's like no matter what your budget is, we're here to help you. We're here to make it stretch. We're here to ultimately, we don't want you to crash and burn, because we all have a lot of purpose and potential. And if you're crashing and burning in your 20s and 30s, then of course
Yeah,
you're robbing us of what, and the rest of the world of what you could contribute. So,
exactly.
so yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm very grateful, Ali, because I was listening.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I was listening, and we're gonna clip this, and it's gonna go on our
Yes,
YouTube, sorry, my YouTube channel and our hub's LinkedIn
the
page.
hub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you'll be
Okay.
able to take,
No,
you'll be able to snack, you'll be able to snack on the content. This is a good type of snack. It's not sugary, and it's not caffeinated.
yes.
Okay,
Yes, no.
so I
Then I mean,
appreciate,
yeah, then the students can get it there, yeah, and watch on their
yeah,
own time also. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
great. Happy to
yeah,
serve. It's been a pleasure for me. So I hope that, yeah, 2 or 3 lives that are touched, that is still something. I mean, with the work that you're doing, it is very much a one student at a time.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
great.
Okay.
Thank you. All
Thanks,
right, now
Lalie.
have a good evening. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.